some heavy stuff here. I will say that. We used the Get Your Guide app to book our tour to the Cape Coast. Our guide Emmanuel picked us up at 5:30 in the morning at the Pelican Hotel, which was also the meeting spot for everyone else on the tour. After everyone was loaded on the bus, he gave us some instructions on what to expect on our way up to the Cape Coast, which was about a 4-hour drive.
At some point of our journey, we'll be experiencing road bumps. There will be bumpy roads. I will be aware. Ghana is a developing country. We are not yet developed, so we have some problems with our roads. We are constructing a road ahead of us, so we'll be experiencing road bumps when we get there too. And then if there is anything along the way that I'll have to share with you guys, I will do that. So you enjoy the journey.
Thank you. One thing we definitely enjoy while we're on a tour is getting to see areas of a country that you wouldn't normally see when you're visiting or in a town. So on the way up to the Cape Coast, we were able to get a look at how the locals operate. You'll see a variety of fruit and vegetable stands as you're making your way to the Cape Coast. And as our tour guide stated, there were definitely bumpy roads on the way. And I did some research. It looks like Ghana is investing about $2 billion annually over the next 5 years to accelerate the development of their roads. This is called the Takoradi Cape Coast Highway Dualization Project, and it's supposed to cut time between Takoradi and Accra by about 50%. The distance between Accra and Takoradi is about 135 miles, where the distance between Accra and the Cape Coast is about 90 miles. All right, good morning.
Hello.
It's like 8 in the morning.
Yeah, 8:20.
And we left Accra at about 6. Pit stop at the Eat and Ride. I think the total ride is about 3.5 hours. So we're about halfway there now. So I've heard it's kind of an emotional tour. So we'll see how that goes. Also like to add, if you're going to jump on this tour and you have like motion sickness problems because of the
underdevelopment of this country,
of the roads and stuff, it's extremely bumpy. So I would recommend like bringing Dramamine or something like that, because it was like really bumpy, like for a good like hour or so. So wanted to say that.
We got 2 meat pies, 40 steady. It's a good stretch though. It's a good little pit stop.
Yeah, we're sitting
a lot of
front.
people in the van.
Yeah, legs are tight. So, all right. Well, we'll see you in a bit.
Feel the rhythm, hear the beat. Oh yeah, colors dancing in the street. Oh yeah, Masks Festival. Join the ride. Cape Town Carnival, side by side. Sway your body, move your feet, Drummer singers can't be beat, Tradition told, stories told in the night. The secrets hold. Oh, African nights, so alive.
So we've arrived at the castle. This is Elmina Castle, so we'll be going inside. I'll get a tour guide to take you through the process.
All right, so we made it to Elmina Castle.
3 hours later.
Man.
It is 10:15 now in the morning.
We've been on a bus for like
Bumpy ride.
4 hours. We're gonna go learn some stuff and see what the ancestors had to endure.
Yeah, interesting
Day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Also, as soon as you get off the transfer, you get bombarded with people trying to sell you stuff. So be prepared for that. And if you'd like to buy anything, make sure you have your study available. If not, just kindly tell them no thank you.
your guide, and this is going to be a walking tour. But before we start the tour, I would like to give you a brief history of this castle so that we could understand what transpired in the dungeons. This structure is 543 years, and it was built by the Portuguese in the year 1482. The Portuguese built this castle in 1482, and they came here in 1471. They came here for two reasons: to trade and to spread Christianity. The system of trade at that time was called barter, and barter is a system in which goods were exchanged for goods. As a result of that, the Portuguese came with their European goods, such as guns, gunpowder, tobacco, cheap fabric, in exchange of gold, ivory, and spices. In the early 16th century, the attention of the Portuguese shifted from the trading of goods to slave trade. So the storerooms were then changed into dungeons. This slave trade started when the Spaniards were colonizing America. In America, they were into sugar plantation, but they were not ready to use themselves, so they were using the Native Americans. A Catholic priest from Spain called Bartolomeo de las Casas suggested Africa. This priest suggested Africa because he believed that Africans were strong as compared to the Red Indians. The suggestion the priest made led to the slave trade.
These are the dungeons where the slaves would be held until the boats would come pick them up for their transportation. The slaves would be held here for months at a time before the next boat would come back to pick them up.
Also took about 150 females. At that time, because they were not allowed to go out to ease themselves, so they had two containers at the corners of the dungeons, where these ladies urinated, defecated, and vomited. But because they spent about 3 to 4 months in the dungeons, usually on the second month, the ladies became so big that they couldn't get access to the containers. So they did everything right on their self. And on the floor, they urinated, defecated, vomited, and even had their menstrual flow right on their self.
In these dungeons, you would look up at the top of the ceiling and see a hole cut out, and that's how the slaves were fed. Their food was dropped down through the hole onto the ground where, as you just heard, they would defecate and urinate on the ground, and the slaves would have to pick up the food from the ground, and that's how they survived, if they did.
Here, no food, no water. And here, they could keep more than 50 people here, so you could just imagine. Poor source of ventilation. These were not created for ventilation, they are spy holes. Here was where the soldiers looked through to check if someone is dead. And if someone dies here, the soldiers would tie stones around the waist of the dead body, then throw the dead body into the sea. The sea was the graveyard for Africans, but for Europeans, who for a reason died in a castle, they were buried in town. And if you check the walls, you could see some of the scratches on these walls. These were made by the males because they were suffocating here, they were scratching their hands on the walls. And now it's been changed into a drainage. And here was where the males and the females saw themselves for the last time. In the ship, they separated them because they believed that if they mixed them, move into the room of no return. Please, when you get here, you go down, count 4 steps before you raise your head. Okay, so this is the room of no return. You see how narrow it is? They moved here sideways, shackles connected to each other. There was a staircase here where they descended. At that time, the sea was touching the walls of the castle, but now it's receding. So the ship stopped about 1 kilometer away. They used smaller boats to convey these slaves to the ships. And the conditions in the ship was much worse than in the dungeons because of how tight they were packed in there. Poor diet given to them, poor source of ventilation. Each and every day they wake up to see dead bodies lying beside them. And also because at that time the ship was not using machines to move, they were using the wind and manpower. So when they saw that the ship was not moving that fast, they have to offload some of these slaves in the sea. And when they were capturing these slaves, they also captured pregnant women. But because the soldiers, they saw that they were not responsible for their pregnancy, they didn't free them as they freed others. They took them along. In the ship, some delivered with no one's assistance because all the females had shackles on their hands. Who is helping? Imagine giving birth in such a condition. How would the child even survive? Before they started slave trade, this side was very wide, and where we counted 4 steps, you could see from the back here, It was very wide because here was where the Portuguese offloaded their goods into the castle. But when they started slave trade, they narrowed it to the small so that
The door of no return is the symbol of the transatlantic slave trade, marking the final exit point for enslaved Africans before they were shipped to the Americas. Elmina Castle was originally built for the trade of goods such as gold and ivory, and it is the oldest European building in sub-Saharan Africa. It was considered one of the most important stops of the Atlantic slave trade. The dungeons held as many as 200 slaves at a time before they were shipped off to the Americas. Some heavy stuff here, I will say that.
Deep.
Well, you've probably seen it already because that's how it'll be edited, but just some real crazy conditions and stuff that you knew, but
They put them through some stuff. It's still on the walls. It's nail scratchings.
it's lingering for sure.
It's crazy. It's a crazy feeling.
To think of humans, like not even, I mean animals, humans, like just putting any living thing through something like this is pretty crazy. But
Here, let me hold this.
the building itself is very, like, it's beautiful, like, you know, with like the architecture and all that, but just marred by
Just history.
negative history.
For sure.
So some people have been crying already.
Yeah.
It's pretty heavy. Also, depending on when you come out here, because somebody passed out, it's hot. So like we brought water, we bought water. Stay hydrated, come hydrated, eat, get a snack for yourself.
I recommend if you go out the night before, don't do it. Because it's gonna be a bumpy ride here.
It's a long.
It's hot in the
day.
van.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a struggle for you if you think you're gonna go out and then just go straight to this tour.
Yeah, which is already a long tour as it is. So you're like literally here all day.
So don't do it. That's your note.
Yeah. All right. Well,
If you take anything from this video, take that.
don't go out before this tour. Do this, like, make this like be like the first thing you do, and then you can like enjoy
the rest of
the
country.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, just wanted to touch base and check in and.
All right. See you.
Right? So in the river, I'll be checking you out, right? Hey, you are supreme, so don't behave as you are a white, you know, supreme woman.
Okay, thank you, sir. He told me not to behave like I'm white. Listen, sir.
Those are my people.
Come on.
The history here, I must say, is very traumatic and emotional. And the most important aspect is the lesson we learned from this place. Have a look inside the male dungeons, the condemned cell, that we earned everything at the door on the gate of no return. This is the Cape Coast Castle, and out of the 3 castles, this is the only one that was built purposely for the transatlantic slave trade.
You can join me.
Okay, perfect.
You're welcome.
The dungeon those days had no walls. So the holes we are seeing up there was to provide the Africans with light and also serve as their source of ventilation.
Our tour guide at the Cape Coast Castle did a good job of letting us feel what it was like to be in these holding areas. He put us all into this cell, turned the lights off, and let us experience how hot it was. This cell in particular was for slaves who tried to escape and were recaptured. They would then be put into the cell until they died.
Alright, so
Oops, sorry.
luckily for us today, there's no door here, no door in the middle. The first door itself open, but I'm sure we still feel the heat. So imagine with 1 or 2 doors blocking us, and as I said, until the last person was dead, no one gets to leave this place. That is why today some even prefer calling this place the room or the cell of no return, because you enter as a living being and dead bodies were to be taken out.
There's so many people who learn to speak. A friend who learned to speak. He communicated with enslaved persons in the time of the master, and they were expected to respect the master. Identities gradually the slaves. We are not enslaved. Today we experience a law of return, and we are definitely coming back. Let's see what lies. Amen.
So as you can see, begging has now become a common theme in these videos. We stumbled upon this sign at the Cape Coast Castle, just basically reinforcing that it is not encouraged to give money to these children who are begging. And it looks like it does encourage them to skip school. So they want them to go to school. So they do not want you to give money to them. If you wanted to come to the Cape Coast Castle on your own, this is a list of the admission fees.
Real quick, maybe have a look.
Thank you.
Just browse your eyes.
All right.
Where you from?
Ghana.
Oh, we're in Ghana.
In Accra.
Accra system. You want some plantain?
No, thank you. Whew. After we left Cape Coast Castle, we went to Kakum Park, but that will be in the next episode of Be Back Real Quick. Drop a comment down below. Would you visit the Cape Coast? And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll be back real quick.